Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menyaksikan Niaga AWANI bersama saya Rozman. Seperti biasa kami akan bawakan bagaimanakah perkembangan terdekat mengenai dunia perniagaan termasuk meneliti iaitu prestasi pasaran saham dari peringkat tempatan hinggalah ke antarabangsa. Bersama kita bawakan bagaimanakah trend-trend ekonomi yang akan mempengaruhi pengubah dasar termasuk juga dengan pengguna sendiri. Dan ini adalah laporan yang akan saya mulakan dahulu dengan Perdana Menteri Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim percaya sumbangan pembangunan Amazon Web Services AWS region kepada keluaran dalam negara kasar KDNK negara yang dianggarkan berjumlah 57.3 bilion ringgit boleh dipercepat kepada tahun 2032 daripada 2038. Ujar Anwar, AWS telah menjadi rakan pembangunan yang teguh dalam usaha transformasi digital negara.
AWS has been a steadfast partner in our digital transformation journey. The launch of AWS region with its 15-year investment plan underscores your unwavering long-term commitment to Malaysia. AWS 29.2 billion ringgit investment through AWS Malaysia region project alone projected to contribute, as alluded to earlier, hopefully more than 57.3 billion ringgit to Malaysia's GDP between 24 and 38. And now knowing the pace of development by AWS, I believe you can fasten that from 38 to probably 32.
Anwar berkata demikian semasa majlis makan malam penghargaan pelancaran AWS Malaysia Region di Ibu Negara pada Khamis.
Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim menegaskan langkah mengintegrasikan digital serantau merupakan fokus utama apabila Malaysia mengambil alih kepengerusian ASEAN pada 2025. Menurut Perdana Menteri, kepimpinan Malaysia akan memacu kerjasama antara negara ASEAN dari aspek dasar digital, memperkenalkan peraturan yang standard dan meningkatkan keupayaan aliran data rentas padan.
Malaysia's chairmanship will focus on strengthening cyber security frameworks, enhancing, well, I'm using the English, not Kagan's English. But he will say enhance, and I choose enhance. With apologies. Now, enhancing regional cooperation on digital threats and ensuring the growth of ASEAN's digital economy remains robust.
Beliau turut menambah bahawa Malaysia telah mewartakan Akta Keselamatan Cyber 2024 yang mana merupakan pencapaian penting dalam mengukuhkan pertahanan cyber Malaysia.
Baik, untuk topik perbincangan ini kita akan menumpukan kepada Suruhanjaya Persaingan Malaysia MyCC baru-baru ini telah mengeluarkan keputusan berkait kartel tipuan bida di mana ia jelas melanggar Seksyen 4 Akta Persaingan 2010 Akta 712. Penting untuk kita fahami berkait tipuan bida ini dan fungsi MyCC dalam menjalankan siasatan serta mengenakan denda terhadap syarikat yang didapati bersalah. Bersama saya di studio ketika ini adalah Encik Iskandar Ismail merupakan Ketua Pegawai Eksekutif MyCC. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Encik Iskandar kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami. Sekali lagi kita akan bincangkan mengenai kartel. Kita tahu kes semakin meningkat dan kebanyakannya dalam siasatan. Mungkin Encik Iskandar boleh kongsikan dan terangkan bagaimanakah penemuan daripada siasatan terkini update mengenai aktiviti penipuan ataupun kes penipuan bida ini tanpa merujuk kes tertentu atau bentuk modus operandi yang dilakukan kartel ini.
Terima kasih sekali lagi kerana menjemput MyCC, Nina. Dalam aktiviti penyiasatan MyCC sekarang ni, kami sedang menyiasat 13 kes tipuan bida yang melibatkan 561 syarikat yang berkaitan dengan tender yang bernilai 2.36 bilion, Nina. So jadi modus operandi mereka ni pelbagai, ya. Mereka ni kreatif, ya. So jadi salah satu yang untuk menyenangkan mereka menang, mereka membahagikan kawasan. Maksud saya ni membahagikan kawasan ni, contohnya, kalau Kementerian A, kami punya kumpulan. Kamu jangan masuk dalam kementerian ini dan agensinya. Dan Kementerian B, kumpulan lain pula. So jadi dia nak meninggikan kebarangkalian, dia nak memenangi. So jadi dia bahagikan kementerian tu, ni kami punya yang ni kamu punya kementerian. Okay. So jadi itu salah satu modus operandi mereka lah. So jadi banyak lagi cara-cara mereka melakukannya. Contohnya bila mereka dah dah dapat kawal ataupun kepung satu kementerian tu, jadi mereka ni akan melakukan di kalangan ahli kumpulan kartel mereka tu, mereka akan buat satu macam giliran. Okey, kali ni untuk tender ni, untuk kementerian yang kita kepung ni, okey, tender A kamu menang, tender B kamu menang. Okey, so jadi mereka bahagi-bahagikan pula di antara kumpulan. So jadi untuk memastikan mereka menang tu, mereka akan meletakkan harga. Contohnya kalau kementerian tu dah jangkakan membuat kajian pasaran, kalau produk itu bernilai 10 juta, mereka akan kepung tender tu, beramai-ramai masuk, dia akan meletakkan seolah-olah harga 15 juta adalah paling rendah. So jadi nanti bila pihak kerajaan ataupun pihak kementerian tu dapat, dia tengok kita buat kajian pasaran 10 juta. Tetapi ramai masuk 15 juta. Paling rendah. Dan paling tinggi 20 juta. So jadi nak tak nak kita macam terpesong daripada apa yang kita jangkakan, dan kita terpaksa memilih 15 juta paling rendah. So jadi di situ kerajaan rugi 5 juta.
Banyak tu.
Banyak. Itu contohlah ya. So jadi bila pula tahun depan pula, contohnya kerajaan mahukan produk yang sama, so jadi dia akan menjadikan 15 juta adalah sebagai harga pasaran pada ketika itu.
Mereka mengawal harga.
So jadi sepatutnya, contohnya kalau selalunya lah, kalau harga naik lah 10%, 20%. Kalau kita buat kajian pasaran 10 juta, mungkin tahun depan mungkin paling tinggi 12 juta. Tapi disebabkan mereka telah memanipulasikan harga tu jadi 15 juta, kita terpaksa gunakan yardstick tu 15 juta. Nampak tak?
Nampak permainan dia.
Jadi dia punya kita punya kerugian tu bertambah, berganda-ganda disebabkan kartel ni.
Dan kita lihat bukan saja mereka kepung menteri, mereka kepung juga iaitu tender itu, mereka kepung nilai berjuta-juta ringgit ini. Tapi kita nak lihat aktiviti ini kebanyakannya dikenal pasti, kita identify sewaktu mereka melakukan tawaran tender ataupun selepas dianugerahkan tender tersebut.
Mereka melakukannya di pelbagai peringkat kerana banyak jenis kartel tipuan bida ni. Salah satunya adalah we call it bid withdrawal ataupun meninggalkan tender itu pada saat yang penting. Maksudnya di sini, contohnya mereka ni mungkin mempunyai orang dalam. Contoh okey, so dia kata okey, esok lembaga kelulusan tender ni akan membuat keputusan. So jadi masa nak bawa tu, so jadi bila nak bawa ke lembaga kelulusan tender tu, selalunya yang disenarai pendek sahaja yang dibawa. Contohnya 3. Daripada 10 jadi 3. So jadi dibuatnya yang 3-3 ni adalah kartel. So jadi 2 daripada mereka ni akan tarik diri pada saat akhir.
Wah.
Lepas tu esoknya bila sampai ke lembaga kelulusan, apa pilihan lembaga kelulusan ada? Projek nak jalan.
Tapi itu game plan diorang.
Itu game plan mereka. Dia boleh jadi sebelum itu juga. Sebelum mereka menyerahkan dokumen tender. Ada yang Nina, yang kedekut ni nak menang berjuta-juta ataupun beratus juta. Tetapi bila hantar dokumen tender ni, sebab mereka ni kartel, 10 syarikat ataupun pembida menggunakan satu syarikat penghantar. Punyalah kedekut, tapi nak menang beratus juta ni. Ya. Sebab dia kata, senang. Kita nak untuk memastikan semua dapat masuk tender sekali. Tak lewat. Kalau dia hantar asing-asing, takut orang tu terlewat ke, yang lain tu ke tak isi borang ke, apa ke, tak cukup dokumen. So dia akan pastikan 10-10 tu dia akan kumpul. Okey, semua cukup. Okey, kita hantar pakai syarikat penghantar satu. Dia pakai Lala Move ke, dia pakai Grab ke, dia pakai Runner ke dan sebagainya. 10 upah RM50 je.
Sikit je pun.
Tapi nak menang 500 juta contoh.
Dan kita tahu MyCC bukan mudah untuk MyCC memantau perkara ini kerana apabila bercakap mengenai ada orang dalam itu, tentu melibatkan lebih daripada kumpulan kartel itu. Ia melibatkan juga kerajaan dan juga agensi. Jadi bagaimana MyCC sendiri melibat urus bersama pihak berkepentingan termasuk kumpulan-kumpulan ini iaitu kerajaan, agensi dalam soal tata kelola pemberian tender ini?
Okey, selalunya kami punya fokus penyiasatan adalah semata-mata untuk membuktikan sama ada kartel itu berlaku atau tidak. Ya, memang kadang-kadang dalam penyiasatan memang tidak boleh elak. Ya. Kadang-kadang kita nampak elemen-elemen lain. Ya. Tetapi kami selalu menyerahkan kepada pihak-pihak yang lain lah dalam isu ini. Tetapi selalunya yang menjadi fokus adalah kartel itu. Sebab itu sudah menjadi mainan mereka. Ya. Mereka kalau bukan pun orang dalam, ya, ada satu peribahasa mereka guna, sometimes the tables and chairs are talking. So jadi kita pun kita tidak mahu menyalahkan 100% pegawai-pegawai kerajaan kerana mereka pun dimanipulasikan oleh orang-orang ini yang sangat kreatif, ya, tahu mencari jalan untuk memastikan kejayaan kartel mereka itu.
Itu adalah antara loopholes yang perlu kita teliti dan kita lihat business plan kartel ni pun sudah cukup mantap sebenarnya untuk melakukan jenayah. Dan kita lihat ada kes yang berlaku sekitar tahun 2017. Adakah MyCC memang akan menilai semula proses pemberian kontrak kerajaan ataupun ia sekadar daripada tip ataupun laporan tertentu sahaja?
Untuk menilai balik mana-mana kontrak kerajaan tu adalah kami berikan tugas itu kepada contohnya Kementerian Kewangan, kepada Kementerian Pengangkutan contohlah yang mengeluarkan tender itu. Okey. Jadi kalau kami nampak ada berlakunya kata tipuan bida sama ada pada peringkat awal, kami kami akan cakap okey, lakukan sesuatu kerana kamu mempunyai budi bicara dalam menentukan sama ada kamu mahu membeli produk atau perkhidmatan itu. Kita yang membeli Nina. Ya. Jadi kita mempunyai hak untuk menentukannya. Ya. Kalau kita rasa kita tidak percaya dengan orang itu, takkan kita nak beli dengan orang itu. Ya. So jadi gunakanlah budi bicara sebijak-bijaknya.
Betul.
Ya. So jadi dan semuanya rahsia. Ya, semuanya rahsia. Keputusan yang anda buat tu adalah rahsia. Dan itu adalah hak kamu.
Betul.
So jadi kami banyaklah bekerjasama dengan kementerian-kementerian ini. Kami melakukan program-program advokasi. Ya, ada satu cerita ni bila kami buat program advokasi, keluar ada satu cerita ni dan tepat juga dengan apa yang kami dapati melalui siasatan ni. Kartel ni dia ada bahasa-bahasa dia sendiri.
Term-term dia lah.
Bahasa
rahsia dia. Kod-kod dia.
Kod-kod dia, linggo dia. So jadi dia kata kita setuju bahawa mereka ni kalau pemenang ni dipanggil pengantin. Yang tolong pengantin ni menang adalah pengapit dia. So jadi bila mereka masuk tender tu secara berkumpulan, itu maksudnya mereka kata datang kenduri. Ya. So lauk tu adalah tender.
Tender tu.
So jadi mereka ni lauk dan hadiah dan sebagainya. So jadi itu mereka ni macam buat kenduri mereka sendirilah.
Betul, walaupun jadi pengapit pun mereka still dapat lauk kenduri itu juga
ya,
kan. Sedikit kita lihat. Dan ada dapatan siasatan juga yang pada tahun 2021 namun sehingga kini masih ada proses semakan yang dilakukan. Jelas ia merupakan satu proses yang panjang. Jadi apa mungkin kekangan yang dihadapi oleh MyCC sendiri untuk melakukan siasatan ataupun melibatkan diri dalam setiap proses ini sehinggalah mengemukakan dapatan kajian itu?
Okay, proses kami untuk membuktikan mana-mana kes kartel ni lah, tak kira tipuan bida ataupun penetapan harga, kami kena melalui proses yang bergantung kepada principle of natural justice. atau dan kita kena melalui due process of law. So jadi kami ni adalah badan separa kehakiman. So jadi kami kena siasat dan kami kena buat keputusan dan kami kenakan hukuman ataupun penalti kewangan itu. So jadi semuanya dibuat oleh MyCC daripada A sampai Z. Ya, kalau badan-badan lain mereka hanya menyiasat, dah siap siasatan mereka serahkan kepada pejabat peguam negara, dan lepas tu daripada pejabat peguam negara mereka akan bawa kepada mahkamah dan diadili oleh seorang hakim. So jadi 3 badan di situ. Kami tidak. Kami tiga-tiga tu kami
semua
buat
benda
kerja.
buat. Ini proses yang banyak dan panjang sekali sebenarnya.
Dia very technical. Lagi satu, bila kita cakap pasal perundangan persaingan ni adalah satu penguatkuasaan prinsip-prinsip ekonomi. Bila kita cakap pasal ekonomi, Nina, kan, kalau kita dulu kita belajar perdagangan, prinsip ekonomi dan sebagainya, kita tahu betapa teknikalnya. Dan ditambah pula kami mempunyai tenaga yang compact. Maksudnya di sini kami hanya mempunyai 17 pegawai untuk menyiasat keseluruhannya. 17
pegawai untuk lakukan daripada A
pegawai
dan
penyiasat,
Z.
ya.
Itu mungkin tidak tugas yang mudah untuk kita laksanakan apabila kita harus teliti daripada kesemua aspek itu. Dan mungkin menjelang belanjawan 2025 kita nak lihat adakah harapan itu, aspirasi Encik Iskandar terletak kepada iaitu tenaga kerja, kaki tangan adalah untuk mengukuhkan lagi jumlah pejawatan, pegawai penyiasat dan latihan, terutama untuk meningkatkan lagi kecekapan dan kemahiran pegawai itu sendiri. Dan mungkin boleh kongsikan apakah amaran MyCC kepada pihak yang berkenaan di luar sana yang ingin memanipulasikan sistem kerajaan ini?
Nina, macam inilah. MyCC apa-apa hal pun dalam cabaran yang kami hadapi sekarang ni, daripada mula sampai sekarang, kami akan terus-menerus menjalankan kerja kami tanpa rasa takut dan gentar, ya, tanpa memilih kasih. Ya, walaupun kami mempunyai pegawai yang tidak banyak, tapi kami akan teruskan. Kami nak merealisasikan visi kerajaan yang mahu mengurangkan ketirisan dalam perolehan kerajaan, untuk mengurangkan perbelanjaan negara dan sebagainya, menyelamatkan duit yang dibelanjakan oleh negara. Itu matlamat kami. So jadi untuk kartel-kartel di luar sana, kata tolong hentikan, ya. Semuanya mereka ni yang masuk tender ni, okey, kami dapat banyak aduan. Dan aduan tu, Nina, datangnya banyak daripada kementerian dan agensi kerajaan. Mereka sudah sedar bahawa itu adalah salah, tipuan bida adalah salah. So jadi mereka tahu kami mempunyai kepakaran dalam hal ini, dan mereka pun dah tahu apa yang kami hendak. So jadi kalau kamu terlibat, susah kamu nak lari. Sebabnya everything is on the paper, black and white. Daripada hitam putih itulah kami tahu bagaimana perangai dan perlakuan kamu dengan jelas. So tidak boleh lari lagi. Apabila kamu disiasat, kami tak akan henti. Tak akan henti sampai kami cari ke lubang cacing.
Baik, itu adalah antara harapan, aspirasi dan juga amaran daripada MyCC sendiri. Dan penting untuk kita memahami tipuan bida ni, bagaimana ia dilakukan dan dilaksanakan. Kerana kita penting untuk kita mengatasi jenayah ini, penting untuk kita memahami bagaimana jenayah itu dilakukan dan peranan MyCC untuk menyiasat dan mendeda pihak-pihak yang bersalah. Dan ini harus penting untuk kita pastikan agar keadilan bidaan dapat dilaksanakan dan memelihara integriti pasaran sendiri. Sekali lagi saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Ketua Pegawai Eksekutif MyCC Encik Iskandar Ismail. Sudah tentu saya harap kita akan berjumpa lagi untuk berbincangkan lagi mengenai perkara ini, dan setiap perbincangan ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam astro.awani.com dan di semua platform digital Astro Awani. Jangan ke mana-mana, banyak lagi laporan yang akan kami bawakan selepas ini.
Kerajaan akan terus mempertahankan setiap inci kedaulatan negara dan tidak sesekali akan bertolak ansur terhadap sebarang tuntutan daripada pihak-pihak tertentu.
Negara perlu mengurangkan kebergantungan kepada pekerja asing berkemahiran rendah. Pertubuhan Kemanusiaan Antarabangsa Malaysia MHO menggesa Kementerian Kesihatan menjalankan siasatan berhubung dakwaan kewujudan sebuah klinik kosmetik yang dikendalikan doktor palsu di Monkiara.
Daddy mau korang bikin bisnes. You kena baca buku. Buku itu How to Work Alone.
Kedai partner. Dapat gaji sama-sama. Tapi work alone.
You kasi orang yang buang tanah bunga. You nak bangkrut ke?
Kalau you ambil riba, dosa sama besar macam berzina tau.
Mana-mana boleh selama you dengar.
Betul tak Ustaz?
Ya, tepat sekali. Ada Ustaz ni?
Apa signifikan dengan pengumuman ataupun berita yang keluar dari media China ini berkaitan dengan hasrat Malaysia untuk menyertai gabungan BRICS?
Kita mau dapat lebih banyak umpamanya pelaburan daripada negara China.
Kalau melihat kepada Akta Kanak-Kanak 2001, adakah kita terlalu lambat untuk melihat proses untuk meminda akta sedia ada?
Kita perlu ada penyelarasan. Kita tak mahu bekerja secara silo.
Di era digital, pemasaran bukan hanya tentang penjualan semata-mata. Penceritaan menarik jadi kekuatan dalam membina hubungan perniagaan, tingkat pengetahuan, perkasakan perniagaan anda. Saksikan segmen JWSME dalam program AWANI Pagi dan Niaga AWANI setiap Isnin hingga Khamis di saluran 501. Dibawakan oleh penaja utama jelajah JWSME, Unify Business, rakan digital pilihan anda.
Masih ramai ahli kumpulan wang simpanan pekerja KWSP di wilayah utara iaitu kita didapati tidak mencapai baiki simpanan asas yang mencukupi iaitu sekurang-kurangnya RM240,000 apabila mencecah usia 55 tahun. Dan kita dapat saksikan antara pengarah KWSP wilayah utara Jeffrey Muhammad Isa berkata di Pulau Pinang terdapat 746,000 ahli KWSP namun hanya 199,000 atau 27% yang mencapai baki simpanan asas. Manakala 547,000 ahli lagi masih belum mencapai simpanan asas.
Okay, untuk persentase ini kalau kita tengok dulu secara menyeluruh Malaysia lah dulu yang disebut iaitu 29% ya, iaitu yang baru sampai untuk peringkat nasional lah 29% saja yang mencapai basic saving. Yang selebih lagi masih banyak lagi yang belum capai. So itu tanggungjawab kita, cabaran kita sekarang ni untuk kita sama-sama bekerjasama dengan pihak media ya untuk kita sama-samalah untuk membantu ya, membantu ahli di luar sana, terutama di sektor swasta ataupun informal sector.
Katanya selain tidak mempunyai baki kewangan mencukupi, antara cabaran utama lain yang dihadapi KWSP ialah perubahan trend pekerjaan ke arah sektor informal serta kadar penyertaan ahli KWSP beragama Islam dalam simpanan syariah yang masih rendah. Untuk mengatasi ini, beliau berkata KWSP berusaha mengadakan pelbagai program untuk menyebarkan maklumat serta mempromosikan mengenai kepentingan menyimpan. Setakat Jun lepas, terdapat lebih 2 juta ahli KWSP yang berdaftar di wilayah utara meliputi 4 negeri iaitu Perlis, Kedah, Pulau Pinang dan Perak dengan jumlah ahli aktif seramai 1.25 juta.
Alright, right now we'll be focusing on financial segment where I'm going to share you a data from Ringgit Plus Malaysia with the topics of 2024 Malaysian Financial Literacy Survey, where this is an annual study to show how is the Malaysian financial habits, challenges and even outlook. If I can share with you, this is one of the data where we can see a respondent who saved more than 500 ringgit monthly. We can see an increase on 2024 to this rate, which is 33%, which has increased from the year before, 2023, which is 29%. This numbers has shown there are many Malaysians right now, they have more confidence with the reopening of the economies in the post-pandemic. We can see a lot of people are earning a lot more previously during the pandemic COVID-19, and we can see that financial well-being of Malaysian right now is increasing and we have less financial vulnerability. Next, we can see on from how also a highlight on the woman. So we can see from this survey also is showing that a woman is less vulnerable in financially. We can see from this data, we can see a lot of women nowadays in Malaysia saves more than 500 ringgit a month. This is an increase to this year, 28% from the year before 2023, which recorded by 25%. And some of the women can survive more than 4 months without employment with the rate of 38%, which is also an increase almost to 40% from compare versus of the year 2023, which was recorded at 30%. And we can see many of the women, more than 50%, with specifically 54% women live paycheck to paycheck. Even though we can see half of women living paycheck to paycheck, but we can see there's a decrease in this rate previously compared to the year before in 2023, which was at the rate of 57%. And we can see more women are more confident right now, and leading a very financial well-being has increased, with 57% started financial planning for their retirement. This is definitely an increase from the year before 2023, which is also at the rate of 51%. And from the Ringgit Malaysia Plus also showing how's the financial habit about the digital. As we are progressing in the digital era, we can see that many people are encountering or facing scams and even fraudulent transaction. And from this data, we can see that almost 38, from the range of 38 till 50%, we can see that many rakyat Malaysia are very confident and aware of possible scenario that they might have to face from impersonation and fraudulent transactions. So we can see that the literacy financial within the Malaysian people has increased from this rate. And we can see there's also that 31%, around the range of more than 30%, somehow are very confident with the knowledge or with the potential scams that they will face. For now, we can see only a certain of 9%, 5 till 9% that are not sure and not aware, and their literacy of financial is very low. They don't know at all what are the potential scam that they might face. But this is some of the data that Ringgit Plus to show what are some of the challenges, and we can see there's an improvement. We are moving to the right direction, but still there need more efforts to be addressed in this situation. And from this survey reflects encouraging progress in Malaysians' financial well-being and literacy levels, especially among women. However, as we advance toward becoming a high-income nation, it is essential that we equip the rakyat with the right knowledge and tools they need, not just to survive, but to thrive in the increasingly digital world. And that was said by the CEO of Ringgit Plus itself, Yuan Tak Siu. And for that, an honor, I would like to present the CEO of Ringgit Plus itself to come join with me to look at the data and help us understand how is the Malaysian financial habits right now, what are the challenges and what are the future outlooks for the Malaysian. And I want to say thank you very much, YT, for joining me. Firstly, we want to take a look on this data that we have shared. What are some of the underlying economic shift that has shaped the behavior of Malaysian, that more can save 500 ringgit per month? How are the situation, current trends right now, are reshaping the financial behavior?
Great. Well, firstly, thank you very much for having me on the show and for helping us raise awareness about financial literacy here in Malaysia. I mean, we were very happy to see the increase in savings rates in 2024. And when we looked at our survey results, we actually asked our respondents, what are you doing, to help you increase your savings? And they gave us 3 main reasons. So firstly, they've cut back on discretionary spending such as eating out. They've also cut back on leisure activities. But actually, very interestingly, one of the main reasons they gave was that they're starting to track their expenses more closely.
So this is a very positive trend, and we hope to be continued. What are some of the measurement, or we can see, to sustain this growth, and what can we do?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think we can look at, for example, at Ringgit Plus, right? I think one thing that's very important to us is to continue to provide financial education to all Malaysians that's completely free, and not just for ourselves. We work very closely with our partners in the RMFLS, and we look at the results of the survey, and we create content and educational content to really target, what are the main issues Malaysians are facing. So if you look, for example, at this year, in our RMFLS, we are very lucky to have a broad range of partners across all areas. Right? So, for example, on credit scoring, we're working with CTOS, right? They're our key partner in that area because it's so important to understand, how your credit score affects your financial standing.
These are the critical components that we should see if you want to address this situation, especially we want to counter more financial literacy moving forward. And also, despite increased savings, why do over half of respondents, based on the surveys, also remain anxious or dissatisfied with their we can say financial health, and what systemic gap are in the financial planning or even economic conditions might be contributing to this discontent?
No, thank you so much for raising that point. And in fact, this was one of the most interesting data points that we saw. When I discuss this with my team and the partners, I think I've got kind of 2 or 3 broad views. I think one interesting thing to note is that although broadly Malaysians are doing better when it comes to financial literacy, there are still some pockets of uncertainty. Right. So, for example, we noticed that for Malaysians earning more than 10,000 ringgit a month, their saving rates are actually dropping year on year. So, as Malaysia progresses towards a high-income nation, we believe it will be increasingly complex and challenging to reach all the different segments, which is why it's so important we continue to do what we do. But at the same time, I think it will be very interesting to keep an eye on this statistic, because as we go forward, Malaysians will continue to improve. I believe we'll continue to see improvements in financial well-being, and it might be the case that actually it's that around 55% of Malaysians remain anxious. It might just be that culturally that we're always quite worried about our money.
And talking about this, looking at this statistic, and given that 86% of Malaysians have experienced fraud attempts, and what advanced measures should be prioritized to proactively protect them?
Oh, that's a great question. I think one positive thing, though, was that we saw that although I think the number of Malaysians that have experienced or encountered fraud is still very high, it did drop year on year. And when we asked our respondents, how are you prepared against financial fraud? What should you do? I think 56% of our respondents actually credited the Jangan Kena Scam campaign with helping them avoid becoming victim of a scam. And when you think about it, the Jangan Kena Scam campaign has only been around for about 12 months, and yet it has effectively reached and helped over half of its population. And then when you actually drill down into what the banks are doing, we had Alliance Bank, excuse me, Alliance Bank was one of our RMFLS partners, and they shared the fact that essentially what they're doing is they make sure that across all of their channels of communication, right, whether it's digital or traditional, they make sure that they're actively educating and communicating with their customers to help them become aware of what could be, what does fraud look like, right? And if you do see fraud, what happens? I think that's a really interesting strategy because, even though Malaysians are becoming increasingly digital when it comes to their financial services, the banks make sure that they're communicating through all channels, right? Whether it's when you walk into a branch, you can have leaflets. When you receive your statements, there'll be education there via SMS or in the app. So I think it's very important that the banks continue to communicate across all channels to all segments.
And it's good we can see the effort and the actions being taken for the financial institutions, agency, but how can they work together to help this proactively?
Oh, I think actually, when you take a step back and look at the data, I think actually when you look at what the banks are doing and the regulators are doing, they've done a great job, right? They've had fantastic results over the first 12 months. So if you ask me, I think they should just keep going and keep doing what they're doing. Continue to communicate on all channels, right, and reach all segments.
And definitely you can share what are some of the current challenges that need immediate actions.
Oh, wow, that's a huge question. So I think if we go back to why Ringgit Plus, why do we run this survey every year? And there's kind of 3 broad areas which we want to understand. We want to understand how Malaysians manage their money, how well they understand their financial products, and how are they saving enough, essentially. So I think on the positive side, we've seen that Malaysians are saving more. But when we look at how well do Malaysians understand their financial products, and I think this is one area where our work will never be done. Right? But both ourselves at Ringgit Plus and with all of our partners on RMFLS, we will continue to ask our users, where is it that they need the help, right? Where do they need to be better educated? And then we'll work with our partners to create the content, to create the educational content that's required to make sure that Malaysians do continue to have better understanding of financial products, that we do empower our users to make better financial decisions.
And from this data also, we are seeing that more than achieving that almost 50%, that a lot of rakyat Malaysia right now, they are more confident, they are more aware towards possible scenarios or situation that how can they get scams or fraud by the other culprit out there. So maybe you can share with us the effectiveness because from this report, they also mentioned credited to the program with anti-scam campaigns. How effective has the Jangan Kena Scam awareness campaign been in reducing financial fraud, and what else for us to upgrade on this?
Well, I think Jangan Kena Scam campaign has been extremely effective. Right, within the first 12 months, over half of our respondents actually credited that campaign with helping them avoid become a victim of fraud. I think it was around 38% of our respondents also said that they encountered less fraud year on year, which means that actually the amount of attempts, the amount of fraudsters that are trying has actually gone down. So it looks like both areas, right, in terms of education is helping, but also enforcement is helping as well. So I think broadly we are on the right track when it comes to combating fraud.
And we also want to take a look on financial habits and saving. What kind of current trends that a consumer can adapt, or what's something that we can learn?
So I think let's look at two areas here, right? In Malaysia, I think we're very lucky to have an organization like PayNet, right, which is one of our partners in RMFLS this year. I think we with things like Do It Now, with things like the national QR code system, it's so easy for us to move all of our transactions to digital. And when we do that, we can actually track all of our expenses within the apps, right? Whether you use a banking app or an e-wallet app, you can use these apps to track your expenses. So I think that's really the first step towards taking control. And then beyond that, at Ringgit Plus, something which is very important to us is we want to make sure that it's easy for Malaysians to not just understand their financial products, but also to access their financial products. And that's why we have a fantastic WhatsApp application chatbot for all your financial product needs. And within that chatbot, we have a recommendation engine, right, that's powered by credit scoring. So if you come and apply for a financial product, if you want to buy a financial product, we will actually look at your financial standing and we recommend the best product that's suited to you.
Maybe during pandemic COVID-19, we see there's a difference on how consumer behavior and trends. And from this data is showing that increasingly more Malaysians are saving more than 500 monthly post-pandemic. In between talking about financial literacy, they usually think of these three things: saving, investment, and even spending. So from out of these three component aspect about financial literacy, which one is more important, and how do we navigate and balance all of these three aspects?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I'll look at it this way, right? I think in order for you to save money, you have to have a good understanding of where your money is coming in and where it's going out. So I think tracking your expenses is absolutely key. And then after that, in order to save money effectively, you should make sure that you really understand where you're putting your money. I think when you look at investments, you also need to understand, what are your goals, right? How comfortable are you with risk? But I would always start with the basics, which is, okay, where's your money going? Are you keeping track of it, right? And then after that, you look at making sure that you're well educated before you actually do anything with your money.
And we want to take a look also on the data with the topic shout out to women. We can see they are increasingly financially literacy has increased among women in Malaysia from their saving, financial planning, retirement, and even depending on their day-to-day jobs, paycheck, and they can also survive more than 4 months. And we can see this is a very good number for women, especially in Malaysia. But addressing this, despite this improvement, maybe you can share with us what are the remaining vulnerabilities for Malaysian women in terms of financial stability.
No, that's a great question. So I think we were very happy to see that broadly, in almost every metric, Malaysian women have improved when it comes to financial well-being. But actually with our partner this year and our insurance partner in RMFLF was FWD. And one thing we noticed with them is that unfortunately insurance coverage rates have not increased. Right? So although when it comes to savings and investments, it's getting better, but not insurance. And insurance is very important, right? Especially from a company like FWD where they're good value. You need to make sure that you're also protected against things that the unexpected. So I think that's definitely one area which we'll be working closely to improve.
Right, we can see that we are living in a very speed growth of digital era, and right now we can see Malaysia and nationwide are embracing the digital tool. But we can see one of the trends right now, people are going to social media with this short form videos from 30 seconds to 1 minute or 1 minute to 3 minutes for their education awareness instead of going to a legit agency or financial advisor. What's your comment on this, and how can you give advice to them? How can they navigate between false information and true guidance?
Oh, that's a great question. I think this was a trend that we started to see last year in 2023, and it's actually increased in 2024. I think on the one hand, it's positive that there is a channel that's easy to reach our users on. Right? Our users have been very clear. They've told us that where they want to go to social media. Now, because more consumers are going to social media when it comes to wanting to learn about financial services, to us, the clear message is, look, it's more important than ever that Ringgit Plus continues to work with our partners to create content, and not just to create content, but to make sure that content is easy to understand and that they can consume it where they want to be. So for you rightly pointed out, a lot of videos nowadays are only 30 seconds, right? And although that's a challenge, we also see that as an opportunity. Right? How can we educate our consumers to make sure they learn everything they need to know within that 30-second video?
Maybe my last question, what's your future outlook for Malaysian financial situations scenario? What kind of trends will you foresee moving forward?
Well, I think one of the undeniable trends that we're very positive about is the fact that Malaysians are increasingly turning towards digital financial services. We look at the digital banks that are launching. Over almost half of Malaysians already have a digital bank account, and soon we'll have new digital insurers. So that's extremely exciting for a platform like Ringgit Plus, as the largest financial comparison site, to have more digital banks and more digital insurers working with us. I think it's very good for Malaysians.
Again, I want to say thank you very much to CEO of Ringgit Plus, Terkini, for helping us understand the overall of Malaysia financial habits, and what are the challenges that need to be addressed, and what are the future outlooks and trends that we need to take a look at. Again, I want to say thank you very much and hope to see you soon. Thank you very much. Lebih 90% ahli kumpulan wang simpanan pekerja KWSP di bawah umur 30 tahun tidak akan mempunyai simpanan asas yang mencukupi, iaitu sebanyak RM240,000 untuk bersara, kata Institut Penyelidikan Khazanah KRI. Ahli KWSP meliputi 60% daripada pasaran buruh, tidak termasuk mereka yang bekerja di sektor awam dan tidak formal. Mengikut anggaran KWSP, seseorang individu perlu mempunyai minimum RM35,000 menjelang umur 30 tahun untuk mencapai simpanan asas persaraan RM240,000 menjelang umur 55 tahun. Bank Islam Malaysia berhad Bank Islam telah memeterai kerjasama dengan Nomura Asset Management Malaysia sebagai rakan pengurus aset, menandakan kerjasama langsung pertama dengan firma pengurusan aset global. Terbitan sulung sukuk wakalah Johor Plantations Group Berhad JPG berjaya mencatat agregat RM1.35 bilion dalam bentuk nominal nilai terbitan sukuk daripada program sukuk wakalahnya dan terlebih langganan sehingga 3.27 kali. Laporan penuh di saluran 501 dan astroawani.com serta dagangnews.com. Baik, kita akan teruskan bawakan perkembangan nilai ringgit Malaysia berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat untuk kita saksikan bagaimanakah pergerakan ataupun trend dalam tempoh terdekat lebih kurang seminggu dan juga setakat pagi ini. Kalau boleh saya kongsikan data daripada Trading Economics untuk kita saksikan pergerakan nilai ringgit setakat pagi ini Jumaat, pada pembukaan Jumaat, iaitu ia berada pada 4.1315 berbanding USD. Kalau kita saksikan dalam tempoh seminggu 7 hari nilai ringgit Malaysia pergerakannya berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat, ia sebenarnya mengalami trend pengukuhan. Apabila graf ini menurun, menyifatkan nilai ringgit Malaysia semakin pulih ataupun semakin kukuh berbanding iaitu Amerika Syarikat, dolar Amerika Syarikat, dan kita dapat saksikan antara range ataupun julat pergerakan nilai ringgit Malaysia berbanding USD yang terendah berada pada paras 4.2137 dan yang tertinggi juga merupakan iaitu berada pada paras 4.1146 dan itu adalah prestasi nilai ringgit Malaysia berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat yang dapat kita saksikan setakat pembukaan hari Jumaat ini dan bagaimanakah dalam tempoh terdekat pergerakannya dalam tempoh seminggu sehinggalah ke pagi ini. Dan bukan itu sahaja, saya akan kongsikan juga bagaimanakah prestasi nilai ringgit Malaysia berbanding mata wang ASEAN yang lain seperti negara jiran kita yang lebih dekat iaitu Singapura dolar. Nilai ringgit Malaysia ketika ini berada pada 3.21292 berbanding Singapura dolar setakat ini. Dan kalau kita nak teliti bagaimanakah pergerakan dalam tempoh masuk setahun ini lebih kurang 9 bulan, nilai ringgit Malaysia kita lebih kurang berada pada bermula daripada Januari ke situ. Kita dapat saksikan pada tahun lepas pada tahun ini Julai 2024 nilai ringgit Malaysia mengukuh berbanding Singapura dolar. Apabila graf ini menurun dengan ketaranya, nilai ringgit Malaysia meningkat dengan nilai kita dapat saksikan yang paling tinggi yang telah dicatatkan setakat ini berada pada 3.2082 dan dalam tempoh setahun nilai ringgit Malaysia sebenarnya berlega-lega antara 3.4776 dan 3.5643. Namun kita dapat saksikan prestasi yang lebih baik pada tahun ini apabila masuk Julai 2024 di mana nilai ringgit Malaysia lebih kukuh berbanding Singapura dolar dan juga kita dapat saksikan ini adalah trend pergerakan nilai ringgit Malaysia menjadi antara mata wang Asia yang terkukuh ketika ini yang dapat kita saksikan juga. Dan saya akan juga kongsikan iaitu bagaimanakah prospek bursa Malaysia di mana prospek pasaran bursa Malaysia kekal memberangsangkan disokong oleh pelabur domestik dan juga asing. Pengerusinya Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar berkata indeks petunjuk utama FBM-KSCI telah mencatat peningkatan sebanyak 15% setakat tahun ini. Ia sekaligus menjadikan bursa Malaysia muncul pasaran mencatat prestasi terbaik di ASEAN.
This resulted in our overall market capitalization to reach 2.05 trillion ringgit, having surpassed the 2 trillion ringgit mark for the first time in May this year. The market has been very active, with year-to-date average daily trading value increasing by 64% to 3.37 billion ringgit from 2.06 billion ringgit last year. Foreign investors contributed 35% to trading value with net inflow of 4 billion ringgit.
Abdul Wahid berkata prestasi yang kukuh itu disumbangkan persekitaran makroekonomi yang baik di Malaysia, perdagangan mantap yang berterusan serta sokongan kerajaan. Bagi tempoh separuh pertama 2024, Bursa Malaysia turut mendahului di peringkat ASEAN dari segi tawaran awam perbulaan IPO dengan mengumpul 450 juta dolar Amerika dan menyumbang 33% daripada pasaran IPO rantau itu. Setakat ini, sebanyak 35 penyenaraian direkodkan dengan pengumpulan dana sebanyak 6.1 bilion ringgit, manakala modal pasaran IPO berjumlah 25.7 bilion ringgit. Beliau optimis untuk mencapai sasaran sebanyak 42 IPO tahun ini, tertinggi sejak 2006 dengan 40 penyenaraian apabila berbaki beberapa lagi penyenaraian yang dijangkakan pada tempoh baki suku 2024. Beliau berkata demikian pada program Invest Malaysia 2024 di Iskandar Puteri pada Khamis. Ia merupakan acara anjuran Bursa Malaysia dengan penganjur bersama Maybank, CIMB Securities dan HSBC Malaysia yang bertemakan Where Policy Meets Progress. Persidangan sehari itu juga mengetengahkan Iskandar sebagai gerbang selatan utama ke negara ini dengan tumpuan terhadap pembangunan penting seperti zon ekonomi khas Johor Singapura serta insentif lain untuk pelabur. Dan untuk mengulas selanjutnya berkenaan prestasi semasa FBM-KSCI serta prospek hadapannya, kita bersama dengan Syed Muhammad Kini Syed Kamarudin, merupakan Ketua Strategi MIDF Research. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Syed kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami pada pagi ini. Mungkin boleh kongsikan bagaimanakah prestasi FBM-KSCI sepanjang minggu ini memandangkan beberapa faktor mungkin mempengaruhi pergerakan pasaran saham ketika ini?
Terima kasih atas jemputan Kak AWANI. Sepanjang minggu ini, prestasi indeks FBM-KSCI adalah agak tepid atau suam dengan kenaikan hanya 0.2% atau naik 2 mata dan ditutup pada paras 1,670 pada penutup semalam. Sebahagian para pelabur dilihat bertindak mengambil untung setelah kenaikan indeks FBM-KSCI pada minggu lepas seiring kenaikan kebanyakan indeks-indeks utama di pasaran saham antarabangsa berikutan tindakan result Persatuan Amerika Syarikat menurunkan kadar faedah sebanyak 50 mata asas yang juga merupakan pemotongan kadar padah buat kali pertama dalam tempoh lebih 4 tahun. Suku ketiga tahun ini akan berakhir pada hari Isnin depan, dan sekiranya kita lihat prestasi sepanjang suku ketiga ini, indeks LPM KCI telah naik lebih 5%, dan ia merupakan kenaikan 5 suku berturut-turut semenjak suku ketiga tahun lepas. Dan seperti dinyatakan tadi, sepanjang tahun ini pula indeks LPM KCI telah naik hampir 15%, dan kami lihat 3 faktor utama yang telah mendorong kenaikan pasaran saham tempatan sepanjang tahun ini. Pertamanya, asas ekonomi, Malaysia yang baik dan kadar pertumbuhan KDNK dijangka mencapai angka 5% tahun ini berbanding 3.6% pada tahun lepas. Seiring pertumbuhan ekonomi makro, keuntungan korporat juga dijangka berkembang dengan kadar yang baik pada tahun ini. Keduanya, kemasukan dana asing yang memacu kenaikan harga-harga saham di pasaran tempatan. Kemasukan dana asing itu pula didorong oleh kenaikan nilai ringgit berbanding mata-wang utama dunia dan underpin baik atau bertunjang kepada asas ekonomi Malaysia yang baik. Sepanjang tahun ini nilai ringgit telah mengukuh hampir 11% kepada sekarang kurang 4.13 berbanding dolar Amerika. Sepanjang tahun ini juga dana asing telah mencatatkan nilai belian bersih di pasaran saham tempatan sekitar 4 bilion ringgit. Dan ketiganya, kenaikan indeks LPM KCI pada tahun ini adalah didukung oleh valuation ataupun nilai yang relatif murah. Pada masa ini, indeks LPM KCI didagang pada price earnings ratio atau nisbah harga pendapatan sekitar 15.5 kali. Tahap ini masih di bawah purata historical average 16.5 kali.
Dan itu adalah perkongsian mengenai prestasi terdekat dalam minggu ini di mana Kifni kongsikan, iaitu prestasi FBM KCI pada minggu ini berada dalam keadaan suram dan sepi, dan suku berakhir juga akan berakhir minggu depan. Bahasa tentu banyak data ekonomi yang akan kita saksikan juga, melihat juga kepada langkah antarabangsa berkenaan dengan dasar moneteri oleh The Fed sendiri. Dan sepanjang tahun juga indeks kita dapat saksikan naik 15% dengan 3 pendorong ekonomi utama. Dan mungkin boleh Kifni kongsikan counter atau sektor mana yang mendahului dan mana yang mengalami kejatuhan pada minggu ini dan sepanjang tahun?
Okey, sepanjang minggu ini hanya 3 daripada 13 sektor didagang pada tahap yang lebih tinggi. Indeks sektor produk dan perkhidmatan pengguna, sektor pengguna mencatat kenaikan tertinggi sepanjang minggu ini dan diikuti dengan indeks sektor perdagangan di tempat kedua. Manakala indeks sektor teknologi mengalami kejatuhan terbesar hampir 5% sepanjang minggu ini. Minat para pelabur dalam sebahagian saham-saham syarikat sektor pengguna sejak beberapa minggu kebelakang ini dilihat antaranya berhubung kait kenaikan nilai ringgit berbanding dolar Amerika dan juga mata-wang utama dunia lain seperti euro dan Japanese yen atau yen Jepun. Ini berikutan syarikat-syarikat penjual komponen atau barangan pengguna yang diimport yang lazimnya didominasi dalam mata wang asing akan dapat mengimport komponen atau barangan tersebut pada nilai ringgit yang lebih rendah, dan ini akan mengurangkan cost of goods sold atau kos barangan yang dijual, dan dengan itu dapat meraih profit margin atau kadar keuntungan yang lebih baik. Kenaikan saham-saham sektor perdagangan pula adalah dilihat seiring terutamanya kenaikan harga minyak sawit mentah di pasaran hadapan yang kini telah kembali semula melebihi tahap RM4,000 setan. Manakala harga-harga saham teknologi pula menghadapi tekanan jualan juga dilihat berhubung kait kenaikan nilai ringgit, terutamanya berbanding dolar Amerika. Ini berikutan kebanyakan syarikat-syarikat teknologi tempatan mengeksport pengeluaran mereka dalam denominasi dolar Amerika. Dan dengan penyusutan nilai dolar Amerika berbanding ringgit, ini akan menjejaskan nilai revenue atau hasil mereka dalam nilai ringgit.
Berbagikan 2 minit, mungkin Kifni boleh kongsikan, Kifni sudah kongsikan prestasi pasaran yang kita lihat dalam minggu ini dan bagaimanakah pergerakan indeks pasaran sepanjang tahun ini mengambil kira konteks makroekonomi. Jadi apakah jangkaan hala pergerakan pasaran saham yang dapat kita saksikan dalam masa terdekat?
Dalam suku takhir tahun ini, yang akan bermula minggu depan. Kami jangka akan berlaku lonjakan seterusnya kenaikan indeks HBM KLCI ke paras melebihi 1,700 mata. Jangkaan ini berdasarkan pada nilaian yang masih mudah sabar walaupun pada tahap lebih 1,700 mata. Nisbah harga pendapatan bagi HBM KLCI masih berada pada tahap di bawah purata historikal 16.5. Kerana pada masa kini indeks HBM KLCI hanya didagangkan pada tahap 15.5. Dan lonjakan itu juga akan dilihat didorong oleh faktor positif dalaman seperti kemampanan ekonomi tempatan dan prospek pertumbuhan keuntungan korporat, dan juga faktor luaran seperti kemampanan ekonomi antarabangsa, siri penurunan kadar faedah oleh Reserve Federal Amerika. Reserve Federal Amerika dijangka akan menurunkan kadar faedah lagi pada suku keempat tahun ini, dan trend pengukuhan mata wang ringgit berbanding dolar Amerika, dan juga aliran kemasukan dana asing ke dalam pasaran tempatan.
Dan tinggal 1 minit saja lagi, kita lihat kepada pengumuman Pengerusi Bursa Malaysia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar yang semalam optimis prospek pasaran Bursa Malaysia untuk tahun ini akan memberangsangkan dengan sasaran 42 penyenaraian IPO tahun ini tertinggi sejak 2006. Berbagikan 1 minit, mungkin boleh kongsikan respon Kifni?
Okay, pada hemat saya, optimisme ini adalah selari dengan peningkatan sentimen di pasaran saham. Peningkatan sentimen ini didorong oleh pemulihan harga dan juga peningkatan valuation atau nilaian saham-saham yang tersenarai, manakala pemulihan harga dan penilaian itu pula disokong oleh prospek ekonomi dan keuntungan korporat yang baik, dan juga likuiditi atau pencairan pasaran yang bertambah dengan kemasukan dan dana asing. Faktor-faktor tersebut secara keseluruhannya dilihat meningkatkan supply and demand ataupun penawaran dan permintaan terhadap penyenaraian IPO tahun ini.
Dan sebagai kesimpulan, seperti yang Kifni kongsikan, prestasi FBM KLCI minggu ini dipengaruhi oleh pelbagai faktor termasuk sentimen pasaran global dan tempatan. Kaunter-kaunter tertentu mencatat kenaikan sementara yang lain mengalami penurunan, dan hala tuju pasaran saham juga masih tidak menentu, tetapi para pelabur disarankan untuk berhati-hati serta memantau perkembangan terkini sebelum membuat sebarang keputusan pelaburan. Sekali lagi saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Syed Muhammad Kifni Syed Kamarudin, Ketua Strategi MIDF Research. Sudah tentu setiap perkongsian ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam astroawani.com, dan selepas ini rangkuman Niaga Spotlight akan dibawakan oleh rakan tugas Terkini Kaoosji. Jangan ke mana-mana, kami berhenti rehat seketika dan kembali selepas ini.
Malaysia sebenarnya berada di kedudukan kedua terburuk di dunia berkaitan keseimbangan hidup dan kerja.
LRT3 sudah akan mula beroperasi suku ketiga 2025. Kerja-kerja fizikal dan penstrukturan sudah mencecah 95%. KPM sebenarnya sedang memperincikan cadangan untuk menyediakan allowance kos sara hidup tingkatan 6. Libat urus antara umat Islam dan agama lain penting supaya dapat mengelakkan ataupun membawa kepada Islamofobia.
Pentas kembali dibuka.
Ini siapa ni? Anak G.
Saya Tehmina. Penuh berdekah-kakak.
Kemana? Takkan nak suruh kena exam. Kena exam lah. Cicak main tak ada apa. Simple tapi sampai. Sudah sampai. Tak bagi minggu dia nak yang misai.
Muzik kelawak superstar musim keempat di Astro Warna dan Astro Go.
Awak buat saya ni macam penyondot.
I'm sorry. Kau nak salah aku, Fahal. Kau relax boleh? Tak, kau, Fahal. Aku tak pilih lah. Oh.
Kalau dah sayang sangat, berkorbanlah sikit. Acik.
Apa motif you sebenarnya?
You tanya I. Saya dah fikir masa-masa
Can you explain this to me? Betul ke ni, Fish? Nana Mama mana?
Dia keluar dengan Ali dia.
Uncle Boss Mama di Astro Ria dan Astro Go.
Apa signifikan dengan pengumuman ataupun berita yang keluar dari media China ini berkaitan dengan hasrat Malaysia untuk menyertai gabungan BRICS?
Kita mau dapat lebih banyak umpamanya pelaburan daripada negara China.
Kalau melihat kepada Akta Kanak-Kanak 2001, adakah kita terlalu lambat untuk melihat proses untuk meminda akta sedia ada?
Kita perlu ada penyelarasan. Kita tak mahu bekerja secara silo.
Hello and welcome to Niaga Spotlight with me, Tehmina Kaoosji. Niaga Spotlight goes through the week in business and future affairs, market watch, industries, analysis and insights. We've got you covered right here on Niaga Spotlight. Well, today on Analysis, we're taking a deep dive into all things logistics technology and how that's actually helping to empower Malaysian SMEs. Now, just a couple of factoids before we get started with the discussion. So Malaysia's overall freight and logistics market value is estimated at 116.9 billion ringgit just as of 2024, and it's actually estimated that this market sector is going to be growing to about 147.6 billion ringgit during the forecast period, which is until the 2029. So that's a CAGR of almost 4.7%. Very interesting things are happening in this space with, of course, more logistics tech startups actually joining in this sector as well. So joining me online today, I actually have the pleasure of speaking with Clarence Leong, who's founder and CEO of Easy Parcel, who is joining us for this discussion on Niaga Spotlight. Good morning, Clarence. How are you doing? Thank you so much for making time for us on Niaga Spotlight.
Hey, good morning, and a really pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So Clarence, let's get started off with the discussion with me asking you a little bit about Easy Parcel's journey. So 2024 is also a very big year for all of you at the Easy Parcel Group, with it being a decade so far in the industry. Tell me a little bit more about what the stories have been so far, especially those emerging from the Malaysian SMEs who make up a bulk of your customer market.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really happy to share that as well. Over the past 1 decade, we have been serving more than 1.5 million customer base in Malaysia. And literally, we are the man behind the scene on all this success of all these small micro SMEs. And it all started from the simple thing, as in the word easy, right? In our brand that it said it all, to simplify logistics for all the micro SMEs to make their life easy. And by removing all this complexity of deliveries, and just thinking of it as is having a few kids to take care at the same time, right, as a parent. And each of them required special attention and different needs, right? Just if we are not keeping ourselves up the pitch, a few of them might end up in the wrong pasar malam, right? So training those in managing multiple courier services individually. And there is so much for all these micro SMEs founders to do behind the scene, apart from the logistics segment. So how can we actually help them behind the scene? And we use cut-through complexity in all these business comparison so that they can actually choose based on rates, based on service level, and even understanding all the strengths from all these different courier services. Like, for example, each of them is different. Like they can use on demand, they can choose next day delivery, they can do domestic, they can do international. There are so much more in all these different players in the market, right? But as a micro SME sellers, to us, it's always just getting from A to B, as simple as that. But behind the scene, there's so much complexity. And that's how Easy Parcel actually helps behind the scene to simplify the entire process flow.
I'm very glad, Clarence, that you've actually already started off the bat by focusing on the MSMEs, who are, of course, the smaller sized players, but not necessarily a small part of the market, right? Now, interestingly enough, the latest annual Logistics Performance Index, LPI 2023, actually shows that Malaysia climbed 15 notches up to 26th place overall. That actually makes us the second best performing in the entire ASEAN region. However, usually what the OECD or other wider trade bodies are actually acknowledging and recognizing is that it's the larger SMEs with the bigger cap who are doing better when it comes to representation and also being helped by the entire logistics sector. Can you tell me a little bit more about what the SMEs and the MSMEs who are kind of like hovering at the adoption crossroads, and how, in your experience, the journey has been going for them? Is there still a lot of resistance, even given the fact that we're now definitely post-pandemic and things are moving towards a far better and smoother supply chain organization?
Very, very good question, because I think this all goes back to the pandemic as well, right? Like thanks to the pandemic, on the bright side, a lot of companies also started to look into digitalization. And throughout this entire process, people started to understand how important it is, right? Like in the other days, or even today, when we talk about commerce, we don't really split the line between e-commerce, non-e-commerce. It's all about commerce as a whole. So how business actually scale and grow upon what they have been doing over the past many years. So definitely digitalization is one of the key. So when all these entrepreneurs or even businesses started to venture into that path, they started to notice that, hey, how can we improve our day-to-day based on what the market really has, rather than everything have to start from scratch. They have to develop everything in-house, and literally all this is cost. And you are definitely very right, as in when you talk about a lot of SMEs in the bigger size, they already have the scale, right? And versus the smaller ones, how can they really go against the market and fight on the same path? So that's how important it is, as in adoption of technology, finding the right solution, saving their time and even effort in getting the right space to work on.
Absolutely. And moving from there and shifting into the logistics market. So, of course, it's also poised to grow significantly by 2029. What are some key trends which you've noticed as one of the more prominent players in Malaysia's industry, Clarence, especially for SMEs? And how is Easy Parcel positioning itself to be able to address these growth areas, which also, of course, come with some challenges?
Technology is always the key. If you talk about key trend, everyone wanted to scale, right? And especially if you look at the people cost, and in every country that we are in is always increasing. So how can all these SMEs actually leverage on technology to be the heart of how they scale? So it's very similar to like you can't miss a good teh tarik in a mama session, right? So technology is always the key in the center of every businesses. And managing processing orders, like tracking shipment, instead of like they have to do it manually, having a big team, then platform that can handle bulk orders. And of course, how can all these processes be automated, right? Like getting the lesser people to actually do it, and that actually simplified the entire process. And even human error, I think that's always the key. Then how can they leverage on system to make decision? This is always the most challenging thing, right? In life, not just only in business. Getting the right information, insights for them to make the call as a business owner is always the key things.
So getting the right information and in time. We'll dig deeper into that a little later, Clarence. But first, I'd like to refocus our attention to another huge growth and impact sector for logistics players, which is, of course, ESG or ESG impacts. So how does Easy Parcel intend to manage this? Or could you tell us about some of the latest updates when it comes to ESGs and how actually the logistics sector, Scope 3 emissions-wise, what kind of parameters do you have in place, or are you planning to put in place soon enough?
Yeah, very, very good one. When we talk about Easy Parcel as a brand, a lot of our customers really thought that we are actually the delivery guys on the road, where you will see pink color guys coming over to your door, performing pickup and delivery. But actually, we are not. Easy Parcel is actually a platform. So we work with all the logistic providers that you can name off. They are all our partners in the platform. So literally, we don't really manage the operation of our courier service providers directly, but as what your question actually comes from, how we actually contribute to the environment, right? So when we talk about deliveries, when we talk about parcels, how many packages has we received every day in a week, right? So that actually contribute at a big scale on the packaging itself, right? So to actually counter that particular part, Easy Parcel actually distribute recyclable flyers. The pink one that you always receive, that actually came from us directly, and we don't really charge for it. It's all come free. And so far, we have done more than 62.1 million of these recyclable packages. And as user behavior change and improve on e-commerce, definitely the numbers will even grow bigger. So that's how we wanted to play a small part as a startup to scale up, and definitely there are more we can actually do. Then to add on a little bit as well, like if you look at a lot of our local courier service providers in the market, a lot of them started to use EV to actually do their deliveries and pickup. And we will also be partnering with all these providers to even pushing more, as in how much effort they can do with what they have been doing, and how can we actually encourage more people to actually to use or even to partners even deeper on providers that has been working alongside with ESG that is beneficial to the environment.
Exactly. What I'm hearing is that, you know, you're trying to actually incorporate every aspect of sustainability from the get-go, meaning which you're not even transferring over any single material which is non-recyclable, which is a great start. It augurs well for the rest of the supply chain as well, hoping that they're going to hard-code sustainability, because that's the only way a business stays sustainable these days. Clarence, moving along from there, I'd like to focus on looking in greater depth at the levels of automation that Easy Parcel is currently already deploying along your platforms. Let's look at the life cycle of it. So the logistics landscape has really rapidly evolved, and Gen AI is, of course, has been the buzzword for the past 8-12 months already. What are some of the day-to-day and also medium to long-term impacts and successes that you're experiencing because of integrating this into your business platform?
Yeah, thanks. Yes, we call ourselves as a technology company, but a lot of people might have the perspective as in, hey, you guys are tech company, so you guys must be having a lot of AI behind the scene, while AI is the big topic of town, right? Where everyone's talking about, hey, I'm AI related. I have processes with AI driven. Surprisingly, we only started to venture into looking into how AI works about potentially 12 months ago.
Right.
Not really as in jumping into the session to really launch it fully as in when it's a buzz in town, right? So we only started looking into AI, how can we actually simplify the process, and more coming from the internal side rather than the customer facing side first. So we always wanted to really explore new things, as in this is our gen in our blood. But of course, when we do the exploration, we also wanted it to be mindful and also be impactful, as in a lot of team members might think, hey, can AI replace my job at one time, right? So this is also part of the consideration, as in when we launch new thing, when we engage with something new, we also have to be mindful. So that also part of the intention when we actually started about 12 months ago. So throughout that particular journey, actually a lot of breakthrough has been done. Our team actually managed to exponentially improve their efficiency more than like 3 to 4 times as in their workload, and just using the same headcount of team members. So instead of like using 2 days or 3 days, or instead of using like potentially 2 weeks or 3 weeks of work, now they can actually complete everything in 2 days. So we actually up the level and value of the team members. Instead of they worried as in, hey, will my job be replaced? But instead, they can actually do more with less.
And that just makes me curious, and I have to ask you, so what kind of support and training, reskilling or upskilling has the internal headcount actually received over the past 12 months to allow them to be able to scale up and actually deal with this very fast, adoption of AI over the past year?
Definitely, there are a lot of small mini programs that we have been having it internally. And the very recent one, we just came back from China, Hangzhou, by attending one of the AI conference. So some of our key team members has just been together with me to see what's happened on the crystal ball on the other side of the world.
Right. Of course, I think that's actually very, very targeted of you, considering that, of course, for the past decade and a half or so, China has been Malaysia's largest trading partner as well. Would that have been behind the thinking as well, to look towards China to see what technology is coming out?
Definitely big yes, as in what can we learn from all these big giants out there, right? And definitely is to be there yourself and to feel it and to try the experience, and that is the best learning curve from every one of us.
Absolutely. So moving into how SMEs actually, in your experience, have been adopting ESG to ensure also, in a sense, cost effectiveness, because it's not only that ESG is going to become part of the deliverables which all companies, especially those who intend to be listed or who are on their way to that, need to incorporate into their annual reports, but it is something that leads to a better bottom line. What have you been seeing so far?
I think if I talk about internally, ESG is always one of the key things that we have in mind. Although, yes, a lot of people might be talking about ESG is only related to big corporates, right? And as a lot of startups that we are now serving, they might be saying, hey, this is something too big for us, right? But to us, a lot of things is always starting small, right? Just like Easy Parcel in the early days, 10 years ago, right? Everything started from a dream. But look at how much empowerment that we have been doing behind the scene for the local SMEs. So everything started small, but it can lead to a big journey at the end of the way. So even on how we design our workflow, how we actually put through the partnership that we have been doing with courier services, and how can we actually enable not just the customer side, enable the courier service part, how can they be efficient as in what they do, is always related to efficiency and cost. And that's how we channel that cost saving to all these micro SMEs.
Absolutely. So I feel that there's an opportunity right here, Clarence, for you to perhaps emphasize on how, even though adoption of ESGs, particularly for the smaller players, is initially seen as cost heavy, but at the same time, why is it actually more of a non-negotiable, and what kind of cost-effective strategies have you seen the more successful smaller players adopt when it comes to addressing ESG parameters?
We don't really see much as in the micro SME portion, but I think that is also the key intention of why we are chit-chatting today, as in how can we actually bring this know-how, this opportunity to more micro SMEs for them to really understand, or even to start small. That's what we see in what we have been doing, because serving a big mass customer pool, that is actually one of the leverages in how can we actually work this out together in even providing the education level, and what can we see from other bigger players that we see outside of the globe that is doing, and how can we channel that, even just technology know-how, to all the micro sellers here. And I think that's an important role that we are going to play soon.
Exactly. And I'll just tack that to a wider number that comes out from the Sustainable Finance Institute of Asia's estimates from end of 2022, which estimated that Malaysian SMEs risk losing around 292 billion ringgit in capitalization due to non-ESG compliance. So this is no small issue that we're discussing here. Moving along from there, Clarence, let's move into perhaps one of the most impactful and continuously challenging arenas within the logistics sector, which is labor shortages. Now, how has Easy Parcel viewed this issue, especially over the past few years, and what role has technology actually played in helping to overcome the challenges of this?
As a tech platform provider, right, we don't really deal with handling direct labor costs from our service providers. But make things easier by streamlining logistic operation through automation is always part of what we have been doing behind the scene. So let's say, take it from the customer perspective, right? SMEs can actually use our platform for bulk order uploads instead of like you do it one by one. And imagine few years or many years ago, right, when we wanted to send a parcel, what we do, right? We have to fill out the manual piece of airway bill, and it's a carbon piece of paper, and like 3-ply, 4-ply, and it's so manual, right? And imagine if you are actually serving the e-commerce market where you have volumes every day, right? How are you going to do that? And I still remember at one point, a lot of customers actually hired intern to actually handwritten all these airway bills at one point. So many years ago, we are the first to actually introduce airway bill that actually you can actually print online. And now it evolved even for like bulk uploads, where you can actually do everything in one shot, just simple click, even through an Excel to upload, right? Then automated label generation will be coming out from your normal printer. And just an A4 paper, it can be print out the area bill. Then, of course, that is the first phase of getting delivery done and ordering, right? Then it comes to tracking of the parcel itself along the journey. How real time the tracking can be done, and how efficient can that be, right? And how advanced where you already know the status of the parcel itself before your customer actually knowing it. And how can you inform your customers beforehand if there anything goes wrong? So all these are the small things that we have been doing behind the scene to improve and or even to level up the workforce of our micro SME sellers.
And how are some of the, what is the usual margin of error involved in such completely digitized uploads and addressing of all the issues which comes with making a bulk order?
Okay. The system itself will actually prompt the user, as in if there is anything wrong, even address checker, right? The system will instantly prompt as in, hey, postcode A doesn't really tally with the address line that you actually put in. So instantly, the first layer of control or even checking is already happening, rather than the parcel get delivered to the courier service sorting center, then parcel got stuck because of the address error. Then even further down, it will enhance further on the operation side, right? Just imagine address is wrong. Then what happened on the cost side of the logistic providers? Back and forth, even the delivery guy have to go to the wrong address. So technology can actually help in the first layer of entrance, right? And that is actually one of the solutions and one of the examples that what we have been doing.
Good to know. Thanks very much for that, Clarence. Now, as we're moving to closing the discussion in a while, but first, though, I'd like to focus on the fact that Easy Parcel has, of course, managed to expand to 4 other countries around Southeast Asia. Tell me a little bit more about the journey of this and how we are doing right now, from your perspective, particularly in one of the bigger markets, which is, of course, Indonesia.
Yeah. Currently, Easy Parcel is in Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and Thailand. And definitely, when I mentioned about the word easy, is always easy for the customers, and it's never easy behind the scene, right? And the biggest challenges when we look at Southeast Asia, a lot of the perspective is always about, hey, it's one, and it's easy to scale, right? You just chop and then just replace and copy and paste. But behind the scene is never that easy, and especially just taking language as one of the topic to talk about, right? When we talk about, yes, we speak Bahasa, but the Bahasa that we spoke here is definitely not the same as the Bahasa we speak in Indonesia.
Sure.
So localization is always the key context, right? Like if you can't really understand by communication, it's definitely not easy for you to scale a business outside. So getting to know what's on the ground, how you localize your product, even potentially your key USP for what you have here might not be the key USP for a new country. I'll take it for example, right? The example that I shared earlier on handwritten area bill, digitalize it where you can print it online.
That's
when
right.
you come to a country where labor cost is not the key, people is so willing to even handwritten because the cost is so low, right? Why should I digitalize my process?
True.
So that is also things that we never thought of when
adoption, right?
Exactly.
All right. So yeah, different challenges in different markets. And I think what's interesting, which I would like to ask you is, so with Indonesia, of course, being a market that is multiple times the size of Malaysia and even Thailand put together, as well as Singapore. So how do you hope to be able to expand in that vertical where also labor shortages are no issue? So it can be a bit more difficult to promote technology first as an angle.
Yeah, I think from our end, we always need to relook back into why expansion has to be done, right? So when we look into the reason why, and then you actually pair against on our own strength. Of course, always people can always say that, hey, you guys are a technology company. You can scale globally anywhere you like to go because it's just a technology. To us, finding out our own strength is always the key. And for example, right, when I said language is one of the key barrier, and potentially the new expansion might be English-speaking country. So it might not be just Southeast Asia, but the other side of the globe.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Clarence, I'd just like to end with getting a couple of your thoughts on, of course, as a logistics tech startup, what do you see as some of the biggest opportunities and challenges for not just new players, but also overall in Southeast Asia as well as Malaysia over the next cycle?
Definitely e-commerce boom in Southeast Asia has already offered a huge opportunity, and that actually grown over the past many years since the pandemic, right? And by also looking at that, consumer now expectation is also different. If you look at the early days until now, I don't think any of us will still accept parcel to be delivered 7 days after the order being placed. So reliability, expectation on the speed itself has already changed today. So that actually indirectly saying for newcomers and to come in to join the playing field, this is your opportunity. And players will have to stand out, whether it's from the last mile deliveries, from the tech-driven solution, or even strong focus on sustainability like ESG, right? So one of the recent famous signature fried rice that everyone knows about it, everyone's actually doing it, but you need to have that special twist to make it a success.
Exactly. So it's all about that special twist. Clarence, thank you so much for this really insightful conversation, and we wish you all the very best with the next 10 years and beyond for Easy Parcel. Thanks for joining us on Niaga Spotlight.
Thank you.
Well, that's all we have time today on Niaga Spotlight. We'll see you again next week with more business highlights and updates. I'm Tehmina Kaoosji signing off. Here's to a productive week ahead.